Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live session today with PowerUp. So, first of all, Happy New Year. And I'm really delighted today to run a live session after a while that I haven't talked to you guys and talk all things PowerUp. So, let me give you a brief for those that aren't aware, a brief history about PowerUp. 12 years ago, pretty much exactly 12 years ago, I've started a company with an idea in my head that started from this eureka moment of connecting a power source, a controllable power source to powered paper planes. And since the vision kind of developed working with our customers and understanding that, bringing the joy of flight and creativity and experimentation to everyone was actually what PowerUp transpired to. Since this was beginning 2012, and every few years we launched a new product. We started with PowerUp 1, which was a free flight version, and then evolved into PowerUp 2, a PowerUp 3, which was the first smartphone controlled. We had also the FPV with the live streaming camera. And then we arrived to our sixth generation, the PowerUp 4, which was actually designed to be kind of the best of all technologies. And this was created, produced, and funded during COVID, which was a huge effort. And I'm happy to say that we are very grateful and thankful for its success. So first, before we continue, I want to give you kind of an overview what we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to share with you, for starters, for veteran customers and also for new customers, some information about our company and also what we're planning to do. I have here a list in front of me, so it kind of reminds me what I want to talk about. So essentially, we're going to talk about what's new, what we did during COVID for this project, what is in development, 10 tips for success with all PowerUp kits, also giving you some troubleshooting tips and unique information about in-depth information about the app, and talking about some mods, and in the end leaving an open session for Q&A. So you're welcome, of course, to stay until the end, and if you have any questions, please feel free to write any question that you have or any remarks in the chat. So first of all, everybody, thanks for joining, and a big hello to you for joining us today for this session. Okay, so before we start, I first want to say a big thank you, of course, to you guys, to our customers, to our veteran customers, which have supported us over the years. As they say, without you, this could not be possible, and this is actually a reality. We're using, of course, the funds that we're getting through selling our products to build and constantly support and develop the app, the technology, and future products. I also want to give a personal thank you to our mobile developers over the years, Mr. Prashant Vaibhav, for the mobile development, for the embedded technology and electrical engineering, for the team at Ziegel Engineering, amazing team that, again, without them, we couldn't have done this. For Steve Lamden, which has been with us for many years, helping us, supporting our customers and giving them outstanding support. We have a new person joining us for marketing, Barrett Lanigan, which is also monitoring this chat and is going to answer you guys. And of course, we have our manufacturing in China, an amazing team in Hong Kong, which has done an outstanding job over the years, helping us transform our visions and ideas into a reliable, stable product. I also want to thank personally our partners over the years that have collaborated with us, Brad and Bruce Williamson from Nighthawk Gliders, Flight Test, an amazing team at Flight Test, Josh Bixler and the amazing team there, Stefan and all the rest, is supporting us and bringing and collaborating with us with their technology and their knowledge. Kyle Bohr from Foldable Flight, amazing designs and collaborations that we've done with them, and of course for many new collaborations to come with customers. On the personal level, I want to thank, of course, also my wife Avital, which has been a partner, a side partner in life, also partner in the business, and helping this really work. And of course, our kids. So, and again, if I missed anybody, we worked with so many people over the years, from technology and marketing. So, thank you all very much for helping us. Okay, so let's talk about what happened during COVID with PowerUp 4. And this was, in my opinion, a kind of a miracle. During COVID, we actually launched the PowerUp 4. We developed it before COVID. And as COVID hit in the end of beginning of 2020, we were in the middle of production. And this was extremely challenging because we couldn't visit our factories. Also, our partners in Hong Kong couldn't visit the factories. So this was all done entirely 100% remote. And of course, the main concern when you don't visit your supplier is that you're not always 100% sure how the quality is going to be. But thanks to our ongoing relationship and their commitment over the years, we were able to produce a very high quality, stable product. And I think it does entirely meet the goal that we strive for when we develop that product. Other challenges we have, and we still have, is of course, as you know, the electronic components supply chain, which has been challenging and increasing the cost. But we've tried to keep the stable price of the product as much as we can, and we're going to continue doing so also this year. And that's from the product side. Of course, and on the app side, we've been constantly adding new features and providing support and verifying that the product is reliable even with new phones coming up. We've added also a few interesting features, which we'll talk about in a few moments, and I'll give you a bit of in-depth what's going on behind the scenes in the app, so you'll get a better understanding and maybe get more knowledge how to utilize this information when you're flying and building products. Okay, so another source of information that I want to point out to. A year ago, we started doing some contests, and one of our amazing customers, Sam Presta from Australia, Melbourne, started a Facebook group called Power Up Your Fun. And this has actually become our main source for the community, Power Up Your Fun. And we decided to take to bring our customers to this group, and currently we're actually running a bunch of contests every month and a half. There's a new contest that's running. There is an amazing amount of people there, building, flying, sharing designs from any material, not just paper airplanes, balsa wood, foam planes. And this is really blowing my mind every time I see new designs coming up. And it really gives me a great source of pride how a simple module actually creates and supports so much innovation and creativity with our customers. And this is something that we still want to support. So first of all, I encourage you to go to this to the Facebook group, Power Up Your Fun. Also check in the description below. There are some links there that you can go and check out. And once you join, you can, of course, have access to all the information. We had a contest that actually ended yesterday called the Innovation in Aviation, which essentially is asking our customers to design airplanes inspired by amazing historical airplanes and aviators, and of course these planes need to fly as well. So we're gonna publish the winners next week, and every contest, of course, winners get amazing prizes of our products. And I think this has been a great contribution to the community. If you have any questions regarding or anything that you want to ask, of course, feel free to write in the chat and we'll answer you. Okay, so what's up and what's new with what's next with PowerUp? So typically every 2 or 3 years we're launching a new product, and essentially the main goal is to maintain that same purpose and to provide amazing tools for creativity and experimentation in flight. And this year we're actually focusing again on the next generation, providing another tool for our customers that can help them build amazing airplanes and amazing things that fly. In this sense, we encourage you to, of course, go to the Facebook group and join, but also we're going to send in the next few weeks a big survey asking, getting your feedback, how we can improve our products. If you have any thoughts and ideas that you would like us to implement, and this is something we're going to take into consideration. If it's to the current products or future ideas, new accessories that you'd like, all this. Okay. Oh, I see here a question coming up. Okay. And regarding what's next, so we're in general, our main focus in PowerUp are two things: our community and creativity. And for this year, we're going to invest in this area in all of our development. If it's the app, mobile app, and the product itself, and also the accessories. So with the mobile app, we're actually doing a major revamp with the technology behind it. And the new technology is going to support also elements that encourage customers to communicate with each other, share ideas, being able to upload your own ideas to the app and share it. All these are going to, I think, spread the wealth of knowledge that our customers have and how they use the product. And I entirely encourage it. As you know, today we have a hanger in the app where you can choose your own planes. All of these planes were actually developed by our partners. And when I say our partners, I mean you guys as well. And we're definitely, we want to increase the number of designs that can be shared. If it's things that you build yourself or kits that you purchase through us or through others, it's definitely something that we want to encourage through the app. So again, if you have any feedback or anything that you want to add, feel free to give us that feedback. Regarding products, we're going to invest in actually updating our technology and improving, and so we'll have a stable product for years to come. Currently, we're using Bluetooth, and we're going to continue using Bluetooth. We're going to work on improving the range and the battery life, and also the modularity, so you can build more flexible designs, not just limited to the current power source and the size. In terms of accessories, we're going to partner and build many more different designs that can connect to PowerUp. And we'll talk about this in a second. For those of you that are not entirely aware what you can do with PowerUp. Alrighty, so this is the first section of the talk, and if you missed part of it, if you just joined now, this live session is recorded and is going to be published on our YouTube channel, and you can go back and go through it again. Alrighty, so I assume most of you either own a PowerUp 4 or one of our older legacy products, or maybe the PowerUp 2. So the next topic, I'm going to go through 10 tips for success in flight. And this is actually really relevant for everybody that owns any of these kits. I'll go through it pretty quickly. I assume that some of you guys that are very avid and have flown in many hours, you probably know all this information. But please stay put because we have more awesome information following that. Regarding questions in the chat, in the Q&A, when I finish the session, I'll go through that, and then I'll also ask Barrett to summarize. Just a second. Okay. So, 10 steps for success. So, if you're not aware, we have an amazing PowerUp book designed specifically for our kids. And aside from talking about, giving you some airplane designs, and this book actually supports all of our kids, written in collaboration with Kyle Boyer, illustrated also by him. And there's a lot of information here from theory and the aerodynamics and the history of PowerUp, and also some airplane designs. I highly recommend buying this book, not for this because we want you to buy it, because I really believe it's gonna help you really understand and succeed in using our kids in maximizing your experience with them. There is a chapter here called 10 Steps for Success, and I'm actually I'm gonna zip through these 2 pages really quickly. And this is all relevant when you go to fly. We also have this information in our supports. Also, if you look in the description below, we have a user guide for the 4.0 and the 2.0. And it also goes through these different steps. I'm going to also add some anecdotes. I think this is going to add a lot of knowledge to your experience. So first thing first, when we talk about going to fly like a real airplane, you have to, here I have, for example, the 4.0 and the 2.0, is start with your power source. So I'm going to talk about both products. And if you are not aware of the other, even if you have the 4.0, I encourage you also to test the 2.0, which is really different. It's not entirely a downgrade. It's actually, it has a different challenges and different experience. And I still love flying the 2.0. It always surprises me how it flies. So when we talk about power, this is the first step. We're using AA3 AA batteries. It's important always to use fresh batteries, not rechargeable. You want to have the most amount of power to add to the supercapacitor that's in this unit. This is going to give you the most amount of thrust, and is going to give you the longest flight time. Regarding 4.0, we have a lithium battery in there or included. Just charge it. Typically, even if your battery is partially charged, around 15 to 20 minutes will be enough to fully charge it. We have here an LED light that turns red when you charge it, and after 25 minutes, it'll top up and it'll turn off. So that'll give you the ability to give you that feedback that it's fully charged. I highly recommend when you go to fly to take with you a power bank. The electronics here is designed for fast charging, so you can fly quite quickly after you charge it. And if you have 2 power-ups, this is the ideal situation. You charge one while you fly the other. This way you have the perfect situation. Okay, so that's first of all is power. The second thing is when you're flying, we do have an indication on the phone, on the app, regarding your how much battery you have. And the flight time approximately, if you are doing a continuous flight, very efficient flight, is around 10 minutes. If not that efficient, around probably 6 minutes. We actually have a record in one of our contests. We reached, I think, 17 minutes, which was quite amazing. It's a very unique design. But in terms of the flight experience, I assume most of you guys are going to fly somewhere between 30 seconds to 5 minutes. So the total experience is way beyond 10 minutes because you fly, you chase your plane, you fly again. So this is what you can expect. Point number 2, the field. Where are you going to fly? So this is extremely, extremely important because you got your airplanes, and both airplanes, they have a very big range of flight. And you're tempted to go to your backyard and fly it. Well, wait, hold your horses. The biggest enemy of these planes are trees and rooftops. And if you get this caught in a tree on a rooftop, and that's the end of that. climb on a tree or a rooftop, extremely dangerous. So avoid this ahead of time. Choose a good big field around, like a soccer field, baseball field, just a big open field of at least, I'd say, 300 feet should be okay. If you're flying the POWERUP 2.0, this is a free flight airplane, which will typically fly in circles. So choose where you're going to launch it according to your location with regards to the wind. The wind is going to take your airplane and it'll drift with the wind. So always launch upwind, and your airplane will gradually drift downwind in the field of your choice. I also recommend to choose a field that has a nice grassy or soft surface, not on concrete. The airplanes are designed to, in mind for crashing, but over time, anything that, flies, goes down, will crash, will get damaged. This will protect and increase the longevity of your airplane. Bullet number 3, weather. So, as a aviator, you always want to check the weather before you fly. And as a beginner, it's important to start when there's no wind. You can fly in windy conditions with a 4.0, and with the 2.0, it's a bit more challenging. But it's always better to start with a windless day. Many times, starting early in the morning, that may ensure that you have less wind. There are a lot of apps today that can give you indication how much wind you're gonna expect that day, and I use it a lot. There's a windy app and other apps. In any case, in terms of the velocity of the wind, how much wind is okay to fly in, I'd say up to maybe 10 miles per hour. That would be probably the maximum I would go for. Of course, you can fly in faster wind speed, but that'll be a bit more challenging. The 4.0 is really designed to fly in windy conditions as well. Guys, I'm going to go over the chats afterwards and try to answer all of the questions. So I'm going to continue on this point. Okay, the next topic is, and before that, in terms of weather, humidity has a huge impact also on your flights, especially if you're flying paper planes. If you're flying other foam or balsa planes, they're less susceptible to humidity. You can also fly in snowy conditions, although the kits are not waterproof, the modules themselves. If the snow is dry and you're using a waterproof sheet of paper, it should be no issue at all to fly in snowy conditions, actually. Plane. So choice of the airplane design. The airplane design, the shape of the wing, the size of the wing, the weight of the wing, all of these have an impact on the flight performance, how long you're going to fly, how heavy the airplane is, how fast it's going to fly, how stable it's going to fly. So I highly recommend that you choose, especially if you're a beginner, our recommended airplanes just to begin with. The Invader is an excellent airplane to start with. In the hangar on the app, I can show you. There are many ways to find, by the way, airplanes. On our website, under support, you can find the airplane designs. In the app is probably the best source. So when you go into the app, you have the different airplanes you can choose from, and there's a YouTube video. We also have our YouTube channel with all the airplane instructions, and of course the book. So there are many resources, but to start with, I recommend to start with the basic airplane to get the best experience. Okay, step number 5 is assembly. Be sure to assemble according to the instructions, and assembly essentially is, being sure that the module is tucked all the way in and it's flat on the wing, that you have for the 4.0 the crossbar, and put a piece of tape here. These will all ensure that everything is nice and symmetrical and in place. And also when the airplane crashes or something happens to it, always inspect it and be sure that everything is in place. This is extremely important also with the 2.0. If your wings are folded down like this or too much up, this is all going to have a huge impact. The ideal orientation of your wings for the 2.0 is very similar to what I'm showing you here, almost flat. During flight, the load of the airplane is going to cause the wings to slightly go up and give you that dihedral angle that gives you a lot of stability during flight. By the way, we are going to add in future models of the 2.0, we're going to add the new feature, which is the crossbar that you've seen also with 4.0. And this is actually we tested this, and this is going to increase the flight time and stability of the airplane. So this is something that's going to come up. Next, trim. Trim is probably the most important a component that you need to take into consideration before you fly. And when we talk about trim, essentially it's the elevators on the rear and also the keel on the back, but essentially the elevators. And the second thing is the center of gravity, but we'll talk about that later. We have included in the 4.0 kit a special trim card that helps you understand exactly how much to trim these elevators. I think one of the typical mistakes are to bend these too much up like this, and then it turns into kind of air brakes. So don't do that don't fold them up too much. What I do recommend is to experiment, see what happens when you bring it up too much, bring it down and see what's the ideal situation. This is going to impact the angle of your angle of the alpha angle, or the angle of your pitch angle. And this is going to influence how your airplane performs, if it stalls or flies straight or goes down. With the 2.0, trimming is even more important because it's highly sensitive. Trimming is going to impact how your airplane is going to fly. So with the 4.0, we have, of course, the technology that for stabilizing the flight. With the 2.0, however you trim, that's how it's going to fly. That's the amazing thing about the 2.0, which literally conveys your design and your trimming. So here it's really important to test, launch, see what happens, make a change every time. And when we talk about trim, it's also important to trim the keel. And I highly recommend to bend it to the right or to the left according to the tendency of the airplane. Make very small changes. Again, we have in the description, we have a lot of information there regarding trimming and setting up and all that and so on. Step number 7 and 8. So the unique thing about POWERUP is really all about experimentation. So you need to test. And testing means launching your airplane. So point number 7 is testing without an engine turned on. After you assemble it, just toss it into the wind, see what happens. If it nosedives, if it stalls, if it flies gradually straight. This is relevant for both airplanes. And if you're happy with it, go ahead and add power and start flying. If you're not, it's not going to help constantly launching again and again. Make a small change in the trim, try again. Make a small change, try again until you're happy, and then fly. So that's step number 7. And step number 8, of course, is testing with power. And when I say with power, one of the common mistakes is, okay, let's juice it up, add 20 seconds of charging with a 2.0 or the 4.0 full throttle. Well, no. What I highly recommend is just add a 5-second charge, give it some power, launch, see what happens. Yeah, you're happy with the glide ratio, give it 10 second charge, try again. And with the 4.0 as well, don't add full throttle, add 50%, start flying, and gradually add power. If you're going to add full throttle, it's just going to go really high up, and you may lose sight of it pretty quickly. It's a very powerful kit. And point number 9, flight planning. This is actually like in real airplanes. Before you take off, you want to think what you want to do, where you're going to fly, what is your flight plan. And this is especially important with a controlled RC kit like this one. So of course, launch into the wind. Look at different obstacles. Think where you want to fly. If you're going to fly a left-hand circuit or right-hand circuit, don't let the airplane actually control you. Think about how you control the airplane. For beginners, the main challenge is controlling the airplane when it comes back to you. So this is something also, we have a video explaining how to practice this, and it's really helpful to have somebody flying with you and launching it towards you, and see how you can learn that reverse control function, which is challenging for a beginner. And last but not least, inspect. What is inspect? After every flight, after every landing, always look at your plane. So if your airplane lands, especially if it's paper planes, don't hold the airplane from the wing, because any change in the wing shape is going to impact the flight performance. Always hold the airplane from the nose, in this case also from here, and so nothing changes in the settings. See that everything is in place, that your propellers don't have anything tangled in it, and you're all good to go, and launch it. See no obstacles and launch it again. I want to give you now some additional tips regarding flying. So this is 10 tips for success. The next thing is troubleshooting. We're not going to go into troubleshooting. That's a whole topic. We have in the book, there's a whole chapter about troubleshooting, and also we have a whole topic about that also in our support. Again, you can see it in the description below. But I'm going to give you a few principles always to think about when you're troubleshooting, and this is something that's kind of core in the POWERUP kit. It's all about what we call trial and error. And what does that mean? So you're going to launch your airplane, and while you're flying it, launching it, you just observe what happens. If your airplane crashes, there's no reason to launch it again. Try to understand what happened. If, for example, if your airplane crashed, it probably has to do with the elevators, the trims. Maybe they're pointing down. Maybe your airplane wing design causes the airplane to go down. Maybe the rear side of maybe the rear wing is a bit too big. There are many components that affect the stability of the airplane. So that's really important to understand why. After that, make a change. Trim your airplane, change an airplane. You can also play with the center of gravity. This is probably the most important component. It's a bit complex to explain for beginners, but the center of gravity, and I can show you really simply how to test this, is the center where you can stabilize your plane, where the weight pulls down to earth. So this is a very simple way to test your center of gravity, just by holding it with your two hands, your two fingers. And I like to sometimes just take a marker and mark on the airplane exactly where is that point. And this way you can also compare different airplanes. Now, you can notice that the center of gravity here is where the crossbar is. Now, what happens if I'm going to slide the entire unit to the front, just a little, like this? It's still holding in place. If I'm going to put my two fingers under the crossbar, you can see the airplane is tilting down. And this means that the center of gravity moved towards the front. This, for example, and this is the same principle in basic aerodynamics, also in real airplanes, and also, the same reason that, the famous crashes in Boeing happened a few years ago. The stability of the plane is really influenced by the center of gravity and the center of lift. So center of gravity has a huge impact on how your plane will fly. How your plane will fly, for example, let's say your plane starts stalling, does kind of these funny nosedives. This means that the center of gravity is probably too much to the rear. So just by tinkering with your CG, center of gravity, pulling to the front, you'll see that the airplane is going to fly smoother. Another option is, of course, to trim your rear elevators, to maybe reduce the elevator trim so your airplane doesn't pitch up so much. These are just very basic explanations, and you can get much more information in the book and also in our support. Another important tip that I want to share with you are props. I hear from some customers that props sometimes are breaking, and this is something that can happen, although it's quite rare. So just to give you a perspective, when we designed the POWERUP 4 and 2 and all our previous products, propellers are also always designed in mind to avoid crashes. That's why we don't have the props in the front, and they're protected in the rear, and they're made from extremely durable material, nylon reinforced with fiberglass. The etc. Still, and we also have a protection circuit in the unit that even if your motor gets jammed, it's not going to burn the unit. But still, props can break, and the main reason that props are breaking is that sometimes is in extreme weather. So we had last week extreme weather, a very cold and dry weather in North America, and nylon, for example, is very sensitive to dry to very low humidity. In order to maintain its durability and flexibility, it does need some level of humidity in the plastic. So if you're flying in very cold weather, first of all, pay attention that to fly on soft surfaces, and also that your props probably are going to be a bit more brittle. And that's a kind of a risk. The second thing is how to avoid this, and I'm going to give you here a kind of a hot tip, is that you can actually improve the durability of your props by actually dipping them, not the module. You can remove the prop carefully with a screwdriver or a fork. Just pay attention to the orientation. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. And just dip them in a very hot glass of water for an hour or two. So be careful, of course, with hot water. And if you put your props in the hot water, if you're in extremely dry weather, this is going to condition the plastic, and it's going to make it much more durable, a bit more flexible until the dry weather passes. This is something to note, and we always see during extremely dry, cold weather, there are more complaints about brittle props. What I can update is that we're actually making some improvements to this, and we're changing the material to be even more durable also in colder weather, so this doesn't become an issue. Second topic is with the 2.0, you notice we have two props, and some customers that replace the propeller, of course, in each kit we have a spare prop, and we also have spare props that we sell separately. Some customers complain that after they replace the props, the airplane doesn't fly anymore. And the main reason for that is that they probably put the wrong prop on the wrong motor. The props are not identical. So when I look at the module from the rear, the right prop turns clockwise and the left prop turns counterclockwise. And that means that each prop is a mirror image of each other and they have a different design. So it's extremely important to put to identify which prop goes where. So if you remove them, pay attention to this. We also have an article about this on our support. Just search prop replacement, and then you can see a movie and also an explanation how to put your props back. When you put your props back in place, be careful not to break the blades. Push it always in the center with your finger carefully until it's in place. Okay, so let's say you broke any of your props and you need a spare props. We also have now a spare props kit, which includes 20 props, 10 left and 10 right. And the future kits are also going to have a little inscription on the prop that says either R or L, left and right. Currently, in order to identify what is left or right, just look at your existing setup of your kit, and you'll find an identical propeller, and that's the one that you're going to replace. If you accidentally removed it and you don't know what's the orientation, again, we have an article showing exactly how to do this. Alrighty, next topic is I want to go a little in depth regarding the app itself, the 4.0 app. So for any of you guys that have the 2.0, I highly recommend after you master the 2.0, meaning after you learn how to fold, launch, and you're happy with it, it's great to move on to the 4.0. It'll give you a much more advanced experience. And what I want to talk about today for any of you that have the 4.0 is talk about two things. One is the tuning screen, and give you a little information about what's happening behind the scenes. And the second topic is flight data. Okay, so tuning. Let's talk about tuning. When you go into the app, so first of all, I'm going to turn on my module. Module is on. Bluetooth is on and connected. You can see it's flashing blue. I'm going to choose the airplane that I'm flying, which is the Invader. And by the way, when you choose your airplane, it's not just an image that actually goes from right to left. When you choose your airplane, it's actually going to change the parameters of the airplane autopilot. Each airplane has a different flight performance, and the autopilot is designed to auto-calibrate according to the plane that you choose. So, but let's say you want to go into the tuning settings of your airplane. Let me show you how you do that. So I'm in the flight screen, in the hangar. I click fly. And you can see the airplane is connected. And on the bottom left here, you can see there is a tuning icon. And we have, by the way, we have an article about this, but I want to kind of give you a better explanation. I know there were some questions how the tuning screen works. So when you go into this tuning screen, you can actually scroll up and see all the different parameters. And these are actually really interesting parameters that give the customer the ability to tweak more accurately flight control of the airplane. And when we talk about flight control, let me give you an idea what this actually means. So in the module itself, in the 4.0, we have a gyro and accelerometer and also a magnetometer. But essentially for achieving flight control, we're using the gyro and accelerometer to measure changes during flight, if the airplane is drifting, if something's happening, if it's changing direction. But it's also used to literally control your airplane. So when we're giving a command to turn right or left, we're actually telling the computer that's inside the POWERUP, we're giving it it's a fly-by-wire instruction what to do, and this actually translates into a command to both motors, either right or left, or increased thrust or decreased thrust. If we look at the tuning screen, you'll see a bunch of parameters, and the first one, which is unique, we call steering angle, and this is probably going to be the first parameter that's the most useful for you to play with. Steering angle is actually, if you're gonna, and you can change these parameters. When you're changing the steering angle, you're actually changing the sensitivity of the command when you're turning right or left. And this is really good to play with if your airplane is too lazy and you want it to be a bit more dynamic or more aerobatic. Or if your airplane is too dynamic and you find it very difficult to control, you can reduce the sensitivity, and this is pretty straightforward. The next parameters that you'll see here, and I'll try to explain them, they're a bit more complex to understand, but I would typically not touch them at all. I can give you a case study when you may want to play with them. In any case, if you accidentally made changes, don't worry. On the bottom here, you have restore a factory setting. Just click it and it'll bring everything in place. Okay, so the next 6 parameters is pitch KP, and then pitch rate KP. And again, we have it for all different axes, the pitch, the roll. So this is, when we talk about pitch, this is pitch going up and down, roll, and yaw. Yaw is like turning right and left, roll is rolling right and left. So the main difference between when we talk about pitch KP and pitch rate KP is the function of the autopilot. As you can see, each one has here a different number. And so let's start with the pitch KP. Pitch KP means the tendency of the autopilot to correct a change. So let's say we're flying and for some reason the airplane pitches up. So pitch KP is the intensity of the autopilot to correct this by pitching down and correcting it to what it was before. So if you increase the pitch KP, the intensity of the correction is going to be much stronger. It's going to go bam, down or up, okay? And this happens at a frequency constantly. It's constantly doing it many times a second. Pitch rate KP is exactly that. You're actually telling the autopilot in what frequency you want to make this correction. So if you want to make a frequent correction, like or very slow correction. And again, these parameters for pitch are relevant again for roll, and yaw. And let me give you an example when you'll want to play with this. For example, pitch roll KP. So let's say you have an airplane with very big wings, meaning that you have the wings may have a big load, and maybe the airplane is very lazy, and every change that you make, causes the airplane to oscillate. So in this case, maybe you'd like to reduce the pitch KP, the yaw KP or the roll KP that influence rolling, and you can see what happens. Another scenario when you'll want to play with KPs, let's say you don't want any autopilot. And I know some customers asked, hey, how can I fly this totally manually? And you can do that. Just slide all the sliders to 0. And that means that you have no autopilot. And now you'll see this is actually quite interesting, because this means that now you're flying purely on aerodynamic principles of your airplane, and we don't have any interference from the fly-by-wire. Oh, Ophir is asking a question. We'll answer all these questions. Any case, Barrett, you hear me? If you can, after we finish the session, if you can actually summarize all the questions and for the Q&A to the end of the session, and so we talk about it. And Ophir, by the way, the guy in the chat is the senior the designer at Sickle Engineering, and he taught me most of these things. Okay, another topic we have, another last tuning feature that we have here is angle of attack. So you can actually define the angle of attack. It's not really defining the angle of attack, but you can influence the pitch intensity according to the angle that you define. So you can, the higher the angle that you change here, the autocorrection of the pitch is going to trigger at that angle. And again, you can play with that. This really depends on what alpha angle or what angle of attack your airplane tends to fly in. And again, you can always restore it to factory settings. We have a few additional cool settings here that we added, and this is really more for those of you that want to play with the modifications and really building different airplane designs. So the default mode is normal mode, meaning that the module is on top and you're flying this direction. We have a settings that your module is inverted, meaning, for example, with our F-22 kit, the module can be mounted in an inverted way like this. And in this case, you'll need to have the inverted mode chosen. When you choose the F-22 model in the hangar, it'll automatically already be in inverted mode. We also have tractor mode and inverted tractor mode. Tractor mode means that the propellers are now on the front, like in a real airplane. And inverted tractor when the whole module is also inverted. Just pay attention that if you want to play with tractor mode, you cannot use these props. You'll need to use different props that are designed for tractor mode, because these props are designed for rear props. Alrighty, so this pretty much ends this session regarding the tuning in the app. Another topic I want to talk, we have another 10 minutes, so I'm going to make this really short. Just that you know, every time that you launch your plane, the airplane will actually record your flight data. So let's say I want to launch, increase throttle, and launch. You'll notice that when I launch, you'll notice that we have this green, we have that green little badge on the top, counting seconds. The flight data will only record when that turns on, and that turns on only when the airplane senses that you launched your airplane. In some cases, if your launch is very light or if you're flying into the wind, that may not trigger, and then you're not going to record your flight data. And when we talk about flight data, actually, you can see the airplane now it knows that it landed, and you can go into your flight log. And this is pretty much showing you some data of your flight, how long you flew. It gives you some feedback. We have some we call it what's the name of it? We call it the trophy cabinet, where you can see all kinds of achievements that you've done, how many achievements. This is really cool. But let's say you really want to dig inside and get that flight data, the raw data. That's also possible for those of you, if you're teachers or educators, or you're just curious to play around with that data. You can actually find that data on your phone. It's stored under files, and just look for PowerUp, and you can find the last flight, and you can download that CSV and look into the flight data. We're gonna actually, in future updates, we're gonna provide a button that you can just click a button and just download that button and share that button that flight data instantly. So it'll be much more accessible for those of you that want to analyze your flight data. And flight data, I mean all of your gyro, accelerometer, motor, anything that the airplane is producing. That's something that you can actually analyze. Last topic before Q&A is modifications. So when we designed the 4.0, we actually built it in mind for modifications. So essentially, it was designed as a great module for paper planes, and you can build endless design for it. We also showed that we can fly a piece of lettuce with it. But one of the amazing things is that you can actually fly many more kits with it and many more designs, and the possibilities are really endless. Again, please go to our Facebook group, Power Up Your Fun, and you'll see really hundreds of designs that our customers are building all the time. I'm just going to show you a few examples of what you can do. So we have an expansion pack called the accessory kit. Essentially, it looks, this is not it. Where is it? Oh, it's a box, and it includes a landing gear, vertical fasteners, horizontal fasteners, some screws, etc. When we talk about fasteners, these are all kinds of plastic components that let you connect to all kinds of materials in different thicknesses. If it's foam kits or balsa wood kits, and these fasteners mount to the carbon fiber square cross section, so you can also slide them. You can mount them in many orientations. So in this case, you can see it's very easy to mount on the kit, and it looks great. And you can also mount it on foam kits. You can connect cardboard kits. We also have landing gear that you can mount on the kit itself. And this is also quite easy. There's a little slot here that you can mount it on the back or front. Everything is quite modular, and this is something we're going to add also into our future kits. Another awesome kit that we have, and for some reason it hasn't been that popular, we have a night flight kit, which essentially we give a LED strip and a power source. And I think I actually found that flying at night is amazing because there's no wind at night. But of course, it's kind of intimidating. You don't see your airplane, maybe you don't understand the orientation. But I highly recommend, if you already know how to control your plane, take your airplane, mount the LED strips on your plane, and try to fly at night. An extremely amazing experience. It'll really improve your flying skills, and very satisfying. And it's something totally different. It's almost like a different airplane. So that's definitely something I recommend to try. We have additional kits that you can check on our website that I highly recommend to test, and also you can just build your own kits from recycled materials that you have at home, cardboard, foam, anything. Alrighty, so now we're reaching the last section, is the Q&A. So I'm gonna go quickly over the questions that you have here. Please feel free to add any other questions that you do have to the chat here. Let me see if there's anything I missed. Okay. Oh, here. So here I see all the questions. Okay. Barrett, thanks for writing things down. Okay, first one. Will you be adding servos that can be used for additional control? So servos meaning the small motors with that you can control with some kind of a gear. At the moment, we don't have a plan for that. I think one of the differentiators with PowerUp that we've had over the years is really keeping it very simple and that it can mount almost to anything and also very lightweight. So I think that's why we kind of avoided going into servos. But looking into the next generation, we're open to any ideas, and so fair judgment on any idea that comes up. If it creates value and opens the possibilities, definitely something we can talk about. What happened to the PowerUp FPV? That's a great question. So the FPV was actually our most advanced kit, amazing design, award-winning. It was stuffed with technology, and it also had a lot of innovation there. If any of you aren't aware of PowerUp FPV, it's worthwhile looking into. We also received a lot of awards for it, Best of Innovation at CES. But what we found, which was kind of interesting, after we finished with the FPV product, marketing it, etc. First of all, we found that the technology, the Wi-Fi technology, the live streaming technology, was a bit challenging and actually uh, not creating enough value compared to the cost and the experience. But the bottom line was that we actually sent a survey to our customers, and we asked them, what do you think? What is the most important thing? What do you want to achieve with our kits? And we learned that actually most customers aren't really that interested in FPV. There are many companies that actually excel in FPV out there, and that's their main focus. And with PowerUp, customers are really interested in experimenting and just flying and making things very simple and affordable. And this is why we came up with the 4.0, and I think that proved the point. Nevertheless, it's still possible to mount an FPV camera on this kit, and I've tried it. You can actually, and that this is not something that we're currently planning on marketing, but you can easily buy a very lightweight 3 gram FPV camera, and the PowerUp 4 can easily add. You can add up to 20 grams of weight without the wing. So I'd say around 10 to 15 grams of weight to the module. So you can easily add an FPV camera and a battery. And I flew it and it's great. So definitely something that you can try. And just bear in mind that it's probably a good idea to mount the camera pointing down. So for example, I would build some kind of an inverted kit that the unit is inverted. Sorry, not this one. And then mount the camera looking down when you're flying, so you get the orientation. Of course, you also need some kind of goggles for that. Next question. Would it be possible to get the option to plug an Xbox controller or something with the app? So that's definitely something that's possible, and we'll look into that. I think adding a controller, some kind of a physical controller, although we do have a function of a gamepad mode. If you're not aware, try it out. It also has a camera mode in there. But I know people are looking for a tactile experience, similar to a gamepad like an Xbox console. So that's definitely something that we'll look into. When are you going to add GPS navigation? That's probably Ophir asking. That's the developer. So, yeah, Ophir, you missed the beginning of the session, and we are definitely looking to invest in the future of our modules and the technology. So, Bluetooth 5 for sure, and GPS. It's a good question. I mean, definitely something that we can look into. Adding a GPS is going to add a ton of functionality, and it's going to really bring us to a different level. but still it introduces other complexities in terms of regulation and cost, etc. So we'll evaluate that for the next generation for sure. Any advice for making successful slow flight airplanes? Yeah, so I think slow. First of all, this is a great question to go and ask the forum on our Facebook group, Power Up Your Fun. I think there's a lot of different pilots there, young and old, that have a lot of experience. But from my experience, there are two things that you could probably look into. First is the angle of attack, so what we call the alpha angle. So the higher pitch angle that you fly, the airplane will have a higher angle of attack, and you can fly at a slower speed. We have a few kits that fly quite slow. This one flies quite slow. And we also have another kit that's called the Easy Bug that flies really slow. All of the foam kits fly pretty slow. The paper airplane kits, I think it's the Wide Glider. Let me check. So if you want to know what is the speed of the airplane, you go into the hangar, and you can see here there's the indication. You can choose the air. So this one you can see, it's called thermal. It has a big wingspan. So this is the second parameter that can influence speed, building a much bigger wing. And essentially what's going to cause the plane to fly slow is the drag. Just increasing the wing size is going to add more drag, and the airplane is going to need more thrust to power it, but it's going to fly much slower. The smaller the airplane, less drag, and it's going to fly like a jet. And let's see if we have any other questions. Will there be a POWERUP 5? For sure. We're always looking into the next generation. I don't know if it's going to be called 5, but definitely we'll keep you posted when we launch it, which I assume we're going to launch it on Kickstarter, and we'll probably need your support for that as well. Any other questions before we conclude? I think we wrapped up the hour. All righty. So thank you very much for the time. Thanks everybody for joining us here today. I hope that was interesting. I mean, we'll try to have more sessions and talking about flight and being in touch. And don't forget to power up. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. Thanks.